Hey guys, welcome back to Bold. My name is Isabel, and as we were planning out this semester of who was going to be on Bold, someone told me that Ahmed owns his own pharmacy, and I decided to sit down with him and talk about how do you even get in the position to start a pharmacy and what that process is like. In this episode of Bold, we talk about him coming into the United States, also about his time at UST as a student, but also as the president of the Alumni Board. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Max Studio UST to stay in the loop and get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek at everything that we're working on. Now, let's jump into this episode of Bold with Ahmed. Ahmed, welcome to Bold.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you give us your elevator pitch, please?
Oh, absolutely. My name is Ahmed AlRawi. I'm a twice alum of the University of St. Thomas, having earned my bachelor's degree in biochemistry back in 2012. And then I came back for my master's in clinical translation management, and I finished that in 2020. I am the current sitting president of the Alumni Board of Directors on my second term, and I am on my fifth year on the board, Alumni Board.
Wow, that's so much.
Tell me about it.
And you own a pharmacy, correct?
I do, yeah. Co-own it with my mom and brother. But yeah, the three of us are the main owners of the pharmacy, of the business.
Wow, that's so cool. And how did that all get started?
Honestly, it was something that my mom had thought about, for a while. I thought for a certain, time it's about time that she becomes her own boss. She was a pharmacist back in my native Iraq, and upon immigrating to the US, she had to go through that process again 25 years after graduating. But of course, that took a while. And then once she became a board certified pharmacist, she served in multiple roles, again, with different businesses. So she knew the ins and outs of the business, and I trusted her. I think there's a lot of room for people skirting the system, but it's a very regulated business. So I trusted that she does her job perfectly, which is the most crucial part, to starting that business. And then, several events just happened. She's been thinking about it, and it seems, when fate has it, all the stars aligned. I had finished my MCTM, which, I like to describe it. It's like an MBA focused on biotech and healthcare innovation and entrepreneurship, with the goal of, spinning out and licensing discoveries out of lab and commercializing them into life-saving treatments. So I took a lot of the skill set that I learned in my master's program, and I applied it to starting that business. There's a lot of paperwork at the beginning, which actually is what got me into the master's program. At one point, I discovered I like paperwork, rules, and regulation. So I went after the MCTM, and it worked out very well. For example, we got our DEA license, which you kind of sort of need. Every business needs it to be able to dispense and buy controlled substances. The average time at the time we applied was 6 months. I got that license in 5 days. So that tells you how good I am with paperwork, and not to brag here. But that was a lot of it. I handled all the paperwork, all the licensing, all the contracting with insurance, and I still continue. At this point, it's more of a smooth operation on autonomous. My mom handles the day-to-day operations of the business. I'm more into personnel and finances and payroll and taxes, and I handle the business aspect of it.
Wow, That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the pharmacy?
Well, it's Alsedra. It's Alsedra Pharmacy, and that was probably one of the things that I spent the least amount of time on. It was a no-brainer. It was both a name that meant so much to me, and it has a deep, significant meaning, but also it was also a business decision. In Christianity, it is the name of the tree crown of thorns that Christ wore when he was crucified, that is the name of that tree. In Islam, it is the name of the tree that casts shade and provides shade to God's throne. So it has a very beautiful meaning, and it's actually a tree with an edible fruit. And it just so happens to be my mom's name. And the value that name had is it made it very memorable. So having worked in multiple pharmacies prior to opening our own business, my mom had the name recognition, and it was that unique name that registered with a lot of what we're about to become our core customer base. And I vividly remember when construction were undergoing, and we're still renovating the inside of the pharmacy. The sign, the outside sign, went on, up front, and people were seeing it, and they're just opening the doors, recognizing the name, and they're like, "Oh, we just wanted to check. We cannot wait. Please let us know when you're going to open so we can transfer our prescription." No brainer in terms of marketing and strategy. I think I haven't spent more than $200 on marketing, and it was that name recognition that had such a profound impact. And our logo, you just see the actual tree that my mom bears its name, and that is kind of sort of crucial to our brand, and it just resonates with so many people.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And how do you get in a position to start a pharmacy?
If you go to my mom, she knows your kids, your name. She calls you and reminds you about your medication. So it's more intimate. And that is kind of the trademark of local independent pharmacy. Basically, they're like your neighborhood, just like, your butcher or small mom and pop shop where you form intimate, more personal relationships. And that has value for a lot of people. So in a sense, that kind of sort of was the key to starting a business. We had a good pharmacist, basically my mom, who worked for chains, but also worked for a local independent pharmacy. And then by magic, a store where our current location is became available. And it's in a very busy shopping center that caters to our targeted demographic, right next to a lot of specialty stores. So business-wise and traffic-wise, it all made sense. I had just finished my MCTM, my master's degree, so I felt much more confident taking on the numbers and running operations and doing all of that. And the day we signed the lease, I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, it's a 3-year commitment. What have we done? And now I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, we need to renew it for another 5 or 10 years because, we're doing well and I don't want rates or prices to go up. But yeah, once we pulled that trigger and signed that very first contract, there is no going back. I don't think I even had the chance sometimes to look back and reflect on the immense success that we've had over 2 years.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. And what's it like working with your family and your mom?
Oh, now it's good. At the start, there was a lot of yelling. I mentioned, we got the DEA license in 5 days when the average wait time was 6 months. And that's because I'm very methodical, detailed. I don't cut corners. And I do remember, my mom is just trying to push me, come on, you have to, submit it and da-da-da. Ultimately, she recognized, okay, I'm good at this. I'm being methodical and strategic, and we're not losing time. But yeah, now we're in a good phase. Yeah, now it's calm, but it was tricky. There was some learning curve, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to go to the remote, and Destiny and Ahmed are going to talk about his experience here at UST.
Sure. Let's do it, Destiny.
So we're here in front of Robertson's, the infamous study spot for Ahmed. How did you get involved into the Alumni Association?
I became aware of it actually of a friend, one of my predecessors, David Torres. David Torres and I actually both graduated biochemistry in 2012. So our senior year, we've got very close just by virtue of doing all classes together, being in labs together. And I was aware that he was on the board and he had, put out communications. So the following year, when the applications opened and they were announcing it, I decided to give it a try.
Okay, so what is the Alumni Association?
Sure. So every single alumni, every single student that graduates from the university and earn a diploma are automatically a member of the Alumni Association. Each year at commencement, the sitting president actually gets to deliver the final remark of the program and welcome those new alumni or new graduates. We're all doing it because we love St. Thomas. It had quite an impact on our lives in shaping it, influencing it, and we have such good experiences that we actually want to, pay it forward and maintain and make sure that our current students continue for generations to come to keep getting that experience, that has shaped so much of our lives. So that's, the Alumni Board in a nutshell. We're a board of 25 directors, 24 voting members. We have our biggest, basically, fundraising arm, which is represented by our biggest event. That's Two Saints and a Taco. All proceeds that we fundraise from that event go to our Alumni Scholarship Fund. So whatever we fundraise in the fall, we spend in the spring when we go about our interview process for, those are in need. And awarding that scholarship is literally the difference of graduating UST and not graduating UST. Oftentimes, they're full-time students working 2 to 3 jobs, unable to receive any support from their family for whatever reason. Very dedicated, good students. So it brings immense joy and warmth to my heart to see us being able to, support them.
What's the significance or the importance of joining the Alumni Association?
The more we graduate students that are quality, who end up going into getting jobs and positions that influence and impact our local and statewide economy and contribute to it, it creates validity of our degrees, and it just builds on that momentum and reputation that St. Thomas has. So I do consider it, like a continuous event. And I always love seeing alumni out supporting our current student bodies and trying to pay it forward. And even if you want to think about it selfishly, you get to support and reinvest in your own degree and your own education by, supporting students that are quality, that go to support the local economy, and just build the reputation of St. Thomas and the quality of its education.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Now back to the studio with Isabel.
All right, we're back. And let's talk about you coming to UST. What was that experience like?
Ooh, long time ago. Now, definitely an emotional roller coaster, not, attending UST specifically, but just the period of my life. I am a child of war. I was born in 1987, so a year before the Iraq-Iran war concluded. Then I lived through the Desert Storm, 1990, and the last one was 2003. With the U.S. war, and then I had to relocate to Jordan, immigrate to Jordan. And you'd think Jordan is a neighboring country, same religion, and we speak a similar language, that it would be a smooth, easy transition. But, it was one not without an emotional toll. I don't regret anything or any experiences. I do think, it shapes me and makes me better, provided that I focus on, reflecting and identifying those. So I lived in Jordan after the war for 4 years. I've tremendously enjoyed 3 out of the 4 years. The first one was more getting accustomed to the society. Again, I would have thought it would have been an easy transition, but no, it was still a local community that was still, I was an outsider and a foreigner, and I just had to acclimate and get adjusted to that local community. And 4 years after living for 4 years in Jordan, we immigrated to the U.S. and we actually immigrated here as refugees. So it helps that I've gone through that relocation process and just uprooting everything that I've worked for the past 17 years of my life. Basically losing everything that my parents have worked for, and then now I have to do it again, except this time I had to cross a continent and an ocean and relocate to Houston, and that was even more of a foreigner community and surroundings to me. I spoke English, all my family spoke English, but yeah, at the same time, it was still a struggle. Where my life was and then where I lived when I first moved into the US, which we had no choice over, was starkly different. I vividly remember my mom, the very first night we checked into basically the place that ended up being our apartment for the next 8 months. She wept. Like I could hear her in the next room weeping. But I also know why she made that move, both her and my dad. And she considered it as an investment in her kids' education and future. So she was able to make that sacrifice, leave the life that she built for herself, and take a leap of faith to do what is best for her kids. So that highlighted the importance of education to me. A lot of my countrymen did not enjoy the safety and the security of living in safe societies, and they were subject to a lot of sectarian violence. Again, the transition was very emotionally taxing and tolling, but I only knew certain within my core that the future will be brighter. Trying to figure out my education was a little bit stressful at the beginning. The two options that I was aware of was Rice and U of H, and it was by sheer coincidence of me visiting these campuses, just feeling very disenchanted. I did not click. They were asking me for ridiculous requirements. I didn't even know what an SAT was. And yeah, Rice was like, you have to take the SAT. And I was complaining to a pro bono lawyer actually at the Center for Refugees. And she was like, well, have you considered St. Thomas? My daughter goes there and she studies accounting. And I'm like, what is that? And she's like, it's a lovely small school, not far from Rice, and you should check it out. It's really good, actually. They're very reputable. And I looked it up, and back then, that should tell you how old I am and how long ago, because it was Yahoo Maps, and I had to print it on a piece of paper directions. Did not even have a car. I actually borrowed the lawyer's car and drove to campus. I took 2 steps onto the academic mall, and I just felt this immense serenity and calm that the campus brought to me, and immediately fell in love. I did not hesitate, immediately looked up admission, walked into the admission house. Now it's like the veterans house. And Lee Holm at that time, he was the main person who was handling admission, and he took me on a tour and gave me all the spiel, gave me the statistics, how St. Thomas students were performing. So I was sold on the quality of education and the benefit. I applied. 2 days later, I got, the word that I got accepted. I graduated with a bachelor's in biochemistry, and I think my class, we had maybe 4 top students, chemistry students. There was 2 or 4, and then a little bit, maybe 10 to 12 biology. So this is your core group of science kids.
Good. I love UST too.
Yes.
And what was your experience like being Muslim attending a Catholic university?
I didn't feel any different. I do consider faith as a personal relationship. Well, it is. It's a personal relationship between yourself, and your creator and the divine. There's always a sense of community. So it was a melting pot, but we still had to go through all the theology and the philosophy classes. And what I found actually is that those classes and those curriculum, even though I struggled in terms of the writing and doing the assignments, it enriched my faith. It taught me more about my faith. As a Muslim, one of the central tenets of our faith is believing and accepting previous basically faiths. So we consider Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is a continuation. We do, believe that the source is common. So we have the same God, which is why there's so much commonality across all three religions. Because again, the source is the same. But again, sitting in Catechism 101 with Father Dempsey, I learned much more about the roots of my naming and how it was derived, and the relationship between Aramaic and Arabic and the transition. And that was very exciting for me to learn about.
That's so good. That's beautiful.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Bold. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you inviting me. Yeah.
Stay bold, my friend.
Go Cals.